Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take a whole stack of your sources, articles, research papers, maybe some observations, and pull out the really key insights. Think of it as your shortcut to getting genuinely up to speed. We try to find those surprising facts, maybe add a bit of perspective. Today we're diving headfirst into somewhere pretty fascinating and maybe unexpectedly advanced in the digital world, Vietnam. Specifically, its role in blockchain and digital finance. And look, this isn't just about crypto speculation anymore. We're really talking about a fundamental tech shift. It's got huge implications. So our mission today, we want to unpack what's happening right now in Vietnam with blockchain, the trends, the opportunities, definitely the challenges, especially in business and finance. And we'll try to link that all up to the bigger picture, central bank digital currencies, that whole evolving world.
Exactly. And we'll look at the specific ways the tech is being adopted there, which is quite unique. We'll touch on the regulations, which are, let's say, evolving rapidly, and even the human side of it, how people are actually driving this change. It's a really dynamic scene.
Okay, so let's start basic. For anyone maybe not totally familiar, blockchain. Can you give us the quick definition? What are we talking about at its core?
Sure. So fundamentally, blockchain is a type of distributed digital ledger. Imagine like a shared record book. It's secure, and it logs transactions between two parties permanently. And the key is it does this without needing a middleman, like a bank. Transactions get grouped into blocks. When a block's full, it gets chained onto the previous one, chronologically. Creates an unbroken history. The whole idea was first laid out by Satoshi Nakamoto back in 2008.
Right, Satoshi. And I think for a lot of us, the first time we heard blockchain, it was tied directly to Bitcoin, wasn't it? But Bitcoin was just the first big application, right? It wasn't the whole story. How did it evolve from there?
Precisely. Bitcoin was the pioneer, you could say. That's often called blockchain 1.0, focused purely on digital currency. But the real game changer was the underlying technology itself. That's what led to blockchain 2.0. This ushered in what people call the digital economy. And the big innovation here was smart contracts. Think of them as self-executing agreements. It's code running on the blockchain like Ethereum that automatically enforces the terms of a contract. Could be for employment, finance, even real estate deals, all transparently executed. And now we're sort of moving into blockchain 3.0, the digital society phase. Here, the uses go way beyond finance. People are looking at healthcare secure patient records, trusted data sharing, education, think and tamper-proof student transcripts, government services too, like e-government, supply chain tracking, maybe even secure voting systems down the line. Countries like the UK, South Korea, Denmark, Australia, Singapore, they're all actively exploring these wider applications.
So it's incredibly versatile tech. But are all blockchains the same, or do they have different structures for different jobs?
That's a really good point. No, they're not all the same. You generally get three main types. Each has its own trade-offs, between transparency, who can access it, control. First, you've got your public or permissionless blockchain. Bitcoin's a classic example. Anyone can join, anyone can see the records, highly decentralized. Then there are private or permission blockchains. Here, access is restricted. You need authentication. The data is often encrypted. Better for sensitive stuff, generally seen as more secure for a closed group. And finally, there's the consortium blockchain. It's basically a private type, but designed for multiple organizations to collaborate. Only invited members can participate. Different needs, different models.
Okay, understanding those differences is key, especially when we look at Vietnam.
Yeah.
Because as you said, they're not just participating, they seem to be leading the pack in some areas. Just how big is the engagement there?
Yeah. Oh, it's pretty remarkable, seriously. A 2021 survey by Finder looked at 27 countries. Vietnam came out #1 globally in their crypto asset adoption index, ahead of places like the UK and the US. And Chainalysis, another big name in crypto analytics, they also rated Vietnam's market very highly. Said it led in 3 key areas. 1, the value of crypto received directly on-chain, that's transactions on the public ledger. 2, the value of smaller retail-sized transactions on-chain. And 3, the volume of peer-to-peer, P2P, trading.
#1 globally.
Wow. And that's not all. Statista did a huge global consumer survey, 74 countries. They ranked Vietnam second just based on people saying they used or owned crypto. And get this, for a sense of scale. Just in November 2024, the estimated trading volume in Vietnam's digital asset market was around $70 billion. According to AAA data cited by Binance, that made it one of the top 2 crypto trading platforms globally at the time.
70 billion
Okay.
in 1 month. That's just an incredible level of activity, especially, as you say, for a developing nation. What do you think is behind this? Why has Vietnam embraced crypto so strongly? What are the drivers?
Well, it seems to be a combination of things. First, internet penetration is really high for a developing country, about 73%. So a lot of people are online. Second, the sources say Vietnamese users are notably sensitive to new technologies. They jump on new trends quickly. That's a big advantage. And maybe the biggest factor, aspirationally speaking, surveys show that 59% of Vietnamese investors see crypto as a potential path to financial freedom. That's a powerful motivator.
Financial freedom. That definitely explains some of the enthusiasm. So, okay, they're holding crypto, they're trading it, but where are they innovating? You hear a lot about GameFi coming out of Vietnam. Is that a major piece of this puzzle?
Oh, absolutely. GameFi, it's literally game plus finance. It's this hybrid model. It uses tokens, NFTs within games, allowing players to actually earn value. The whole play to earn idea. And it really blew up during a pandemic, offered new ways to earn, new entertainment. The global gaming market itself is huge, right? Nearly 3 billion gamers in 2021, and Vietnam's a powerhouse there too, ranked second in Southeast Asia for mobile game downloads. So the gaming culture was already strong, fertile ground for GameFi.
Makes sense. Any standout examples?
Well, the big one everyone talks about is Axie Infinity, widely seen as a huge GameFi success story in 2021. And it has really strong ties to the Vietnamese GameFi community. Its CEO, Nguyen Van Trong, was even named one of the top 10 most influential figures in the crypto world. Pretty big deal. But it wasn't just Axie. 2021 saw this real burst of activity. Projects like the Parallel, Thetan Arena, the Sandbox, Decentraland, Zombie World Z, Elamon, loads of them. It just showed this incredible capacity for rapid innovation in Vietnam within this new digital economy space.
That mix of gaming and finance is really interesting. Shows real creativity. And it's fascinating how fast these new sectors can pull in not just users, but serious capital. Signals real belief in the tech. But GameFi, while exciting, is one piece. What about the more traditional sectors? How is blockchain being used in, say, established business and finance in Vietnam, beyond just consumer crypto?
Yeah, we're seeing movement there too, some foundational steps. For instance, back in July 2018, NAPAs, that's the National Payment Corporation of Vietnam, they ran successful tests. Using blockchain for interbank money transfers, they worked with big banks like Vietnambank, VIB, TP Bank. Now, this was more foundational, testing the waters, not replacing current systems overnight. But it showed strategic interest from the national payments body.
Or is it payments infrastructure? What else?
International trade finance is another area. Things like letters of credit, LCs, and cross-border payments. Blockchain can potentially remove a lot of friction there. HSBC actually made the first global payment in Vietnam using blockchain through a platform called Voltron back in 2019. And by early 2021, 5 major Vietnamese commercial banks, BIDV, HD Bank, Vietnambank, MB Bank, Vietcombank, had all tested blockchain for LC transactions. That level of testing by major players tells you something, and surveys confirm it. Most Vietnamese banks are planning serious investment in tech systems, and they specifically mention interest in blockchain, cloud, big data, automation.
So what are the core benefits they're chasing?
Yeah.
Why blockchain for these traditional functions?
It really boils down to a few key things. First, efficiency. Cutting out intermediaries, getting real-time agreements, speeding things up, that saves costs and time. Second, decentralization. No single point of control or failure. That can lower operational costs compared to traditional central authorities. Third, transparency. Having that permanent real-time view of transactions helps cut down on fraud. And finally, security and sustainability. Because the data is secured across many nodes, it's very robust against errors or attack.
Right, those are powerful arguments. Efficiency, transparency, security. It sounds like it's moving beyond just experiments now, influencing the future operations of finance there. And as Vietnam goes deeper into digital, this naturally leads to the idea of a central bank digital currency, a CBDC. What's the story there? Are they working on a digital dollar?
They are definitely looking into it. Right now, Vietnam is officially in the research phase for a CBDC. Back in June 2021, the Prime Minister actually directed the State Bank of Vietnam, the SBV, to research, develop, and pilot a CBDC. Specifically mentioning using blockchain technology. And they've been quite active since, discussing CBDCs in the context of emerging economies, looking at different models, the legal side. They've even had training for their experts with IMF support as recently as March 2023.
So they're doing their homework. What are they seeing as the pros and cons?
Well, SBV papers have outlined the potential benefits. Things like greater financial inclusion for people outside the banking system, strengthening monetary sovereignty, improving stability, potentially better surveillance of illicit finance, reducing cash usage, and driving innovation. But they're also aware of the risks. System complexity, the significant upfront costs, and this big question of disintermediation. What happens to commercial banks if people hold digital currency directly with the central bank? They've been looking closely at other countries' experiences, like the Bahamas with their sand dollar. The conclusion seems to be, Vietnam needs very clear goals. Rigorous tech assessment, strict data privacy rules, careful pilot projects, and a lot of public education before taking any concrete steps.
That sounds like a cautious, thorough approach. But how does this research phase compare to what other countries are actually doing, especially in Asia? Are others further along, launching things?
Yeah, that's the key contrast. Globally, it's interesting, over 88% of CBDC projects that are already in pilot or production phases, they're using blockchain as the core technology. They're drawn to its benefits, integrated platforms, programmability with smart contracts, those transparent audit trails, and how it can connect different systems interoperability.
So blockchain is the tech of choice for many who are moving forward. Which Asian countries have live projects?
Okay, looking at retail CBDCs, the kind citizens could use. Cambodia's Bekong project is live, launched October 2020. It connects banks, focuses on financial inclusion, especially for rural areas, and reducing cross-border payment costs. Really important for their largely unbanked population. Then you have mainland China's Digital Yuan, the DCP, piloting since April 2020. First major economy to do this, aiming to upgrade their payment system, potentially replace some physical cash. Korea's Ewon is also notable. They started a 22-month pilot back in March 2020, really digging into the design, tech needs, how it would operate.
So several are well past the pure research stage. What about wholesale CBDCs bank to bank?
Right, for interbank settlements, there's Hong Kong's SAR and Thailand's project Inthenon Lion Rock. They've been working together since 2019 on cross-border payments. Now the UAE and mainland China are involved too. It's expanding. Singapore's Project Ubin finished its main phase in July 2020. They tested blockchain payment solutions extensively and are now focused on connecting their system to other networks globally. And Japan's Project Stella, joint research with the European Central Bank since 2016. They say no immediate plans to issue, but they're doing the groundwork, also looking at a retail proof of concept.
So quite a lot of activity across Asia.
Definitely. And Vietnam, while researching, actually has a pretty favorable backdrop for something like a CBDC. Think about it. They're already moving towards cashless payments. 85% use e-wallets, 42% contactless payments back in 2020. Mobile phone penetration is sky high, over 150% of the population in 2021. Plus, the government already has a national financial inclusion strategy aiming for 2025. A CBDC could potentially fit right into that.
It definitely sounds like a place ripe for innovation. But that kind of rapid growth, it must come with some serious challenges, right? What are the big hurdles for blockchain and digital finance in Vietnam?
Oh, absolutely. Big hurdles. The first major one is the legal framework. It's lagging behind the technology. While the government has pushed digital transformation and non-cash payments, the specific laws around finance and banking, they don't really mention blockchain applications explicitly yet. There's a new law on digital technology industry coming January 1st, 2026, that will require things like licenses, minimum capital, local offices for crypto exchanges, so steps are being taken. The government is working on a draft framework aiming for controlled pilots, then maybe full implementation by mid-2026, but right now, it's uncertain.
And that uncertainty must cause problems.
For sure. It creates regulatory ambiguity. Like, crypto is banned as payment, but holding it or trading peer-to-peer is allowed. It's confusing. We've heard some startups have actually moved their base overseas because the laws aren't clear enough in Vietnam. Plus, Vietnam is on the FATF's gray list, the Financial Action Task Force. That means they need to improve their anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing measures. There's real pressure to regulate stablecoins, exchanges, P2P trading properly.
Okay, legal and regulatory hurdles. What else?
Human resources. There's a huge demand, a real thirst for human resources, as one source put it, in the blockchain sector. The talent pool hasn't kept up with the industry's growth, and then there's investor risk. With so many new people jumping in, often without much experience or knowledge, scams are a big issue. The sources use terms like noob scammers and investor traps. It points to a vulnerability, especially among less experienced participants. Apparently, investors earning less than $500 a month, they have the highest loss rate. They get drawn into hype like meme coins or AI-themed projects, often pushed by influencers, KOLs, key opinion leaders. This unfortunately means some genuinely promising startups can collapse because they can't attract stable, informed investments, a volatile environment.
That's a serious issue. Lack of experienced talent and vulnerable investors. Any other big challenges?
Yeah, one more practical one. Integration. Trying to plug these new blockchain platforms into existing, sometimes old banking and payment systems. That's technically very challenging. Estimates suggest it could take like 7 to 10 years to fully roll out a blockchain-based payment system for commercial or interbank use. It's a long-term project.
So significant practical, regulatory, and human capital challenges. And, when we talk about powerful new technologies like CBDCs, especially in different political systems, it's crucial we look at all angles. Some sources, for example, the Human Rights Foundation, they monitor CBDC developments globally. They classify Vietnam's government as a closed autocracy. And they highlight potential risks if a CBDC were implemented in that context. Things like the possibility it could be used to worsen restrictions on dissent by making it easier to freeze or seize funds of activists or opponents.
Right. They also raise questions about corruption and whether promises about limiting surveillance or control would be kept. Could policies be used for political favoritism via targeted financial restrictions?
Exactly. And just to be clear, for you listening, we're not endorsing any viewpoint here. We're relaying concerns raised by organizations like HRF about how this tech could potentially be used in different governance contexts. It's important for a full understanding.
Okay, so given all these challenges, the legal fog, investor safety issues, integration hurdles, what does the market actually look like now? How are people getting information, making decisions, and what does this mean for future investment?
Well, it's interesting how trust works there. Vietnamese investors, according to the research, primarily trust the community around a project and the crypto project itself. After that, it's KOLs, those influencers, and then crypto media, and what influences their decisions. Transparent information is key, cited by about 36–37%. Fundamental analysis falls at 28%. But narrative, the story or hype around a project, still plays a big role, about 18%, and being featured by media is 15%. These latter two seem more influential for those lower-income investors we mentioned earlier.
So information transparency is valued, but hype still has influence. What about this InfoFi trend you mentioned? Right, InfoFi, information finance. There are platforms, Kaito was mentioned as an example, that reward people or communities for talking about crypto projects. The idea is to connect projects with content creators, generate buzz, but there's a big pitfall. Paying people to write or talk about projects can attract what the source is called mercenary participants, people who only care about the reward, not the actual value or truth of the project.
Ah, so you get noise, not signal.
Exactly. It leads to clickbait, not truth, exaggeration, maybe misrepresentation. A project can get a reputation on, say, crypto Twitter for running a spammy attention campaign, and the result: broken trust, loss of goodwill, and a growing disconnect from real investors. It can actually backfire badly.
So if you're trying to engage genuinely in that market, what's the advice? How do you build real trust?
The sources suggest a few things. First, don't just rely on KOLs. Spread your effort across multiple channels to build sustained reach and value. Second, choose your KOLs carefully. Look beyond just follower numbers. Find those with real insights and traffic, smart followers, and an active community. Quality over quantity. And fundamentally, focus relentlessly on trust and transparency. The key insight was, trust is based on value, not status. Vietnamese investors, especially the more experienced ones, do verify information. So demonstrating real value, being transparent, taking responsibility, that's what builds credibility that lasts.
That's really interesting. It suggests the market, despite the hype and challenges, is maybe starting to mature, demanding more substance.
It seems that way. There's a push towards more genuine engagement, which is ultimately healthier for sustainable growth.
Okay, wow. We have covered a lot of ground today. From the basics of blockchain to Vietnam's really surprising leadership in crypto adoption, the whole GameFi explosion, the careful steps they're taking towards a CBDC, and those really critical challenges around regulation, finding skilled people, and keeping investors safe.
Yeah, Vietnam is clearly this fascinating mix. High potential, loads of energy, a government pushing digital transformation. It's got a dynamic ecosystem, but as we've seen, it's also complex. There are significant hurdles. Innovators, investors, policymakers, they all need to navigate this landscape very carefully to really unlock that potential.
Absolutely. This deep dive paints a picture of a really vibrant, fast-moving space. And it leaves us, and you, with maybe a provocative thought to chew on. As these digital economies accelerate everywhere, how do nations strike that balance? How do they harness the huge opportunities of technologies like blockchain and CBDCs, while also fulfilling that crucial duty to protect their citizens, ensure fairness, and build a digital future that's truly informed and equitable for everyone? Something to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and stay well informed.